Coming to you from Central Tokyo.
This is Wild Branch Radio. Welcome back to another episode of Wild Branch Radio. I am your host, Jeremy.
With his wife, Kumi.
Oh, yeah.
That's me.
Indeed. We're coming to you from Central Tokyo here, and we have a very special guest with us today.
Which guest are you talking about?
Yeah, well, we want to
Holy
have...
Spirit?
We want to...
Yes.
Him too. We want to have guests on the show, and we will be having some other people on the show.
Talking to friends.
Yeah, in the coming episodes. We're excited about that. But before we get into that, you know, we've just jumped in with various topics that are really important to us, but we also wanted to take some time just for our listeners to get to know us too. Mm-hmm. So today, I'll be interviewing my lovely wife, Kumi.
Yeah, I get to start.
Yes. So why don't you start us off, Kumi? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Oh, so you want the short version probably.
Well, it's...
Since this is not a very long episode. Yeah, I was born in Japan. I'm 51 years old.
Oh, wow. You really give them all the details then.
Yeah, I don't care. I was born to Japanese parents, although, interestingly, I get asked all the time if I'm 100% Japanese. I guess that comes from maybe having a foreign husband.
Partly,
and half foreign-looking kids, maybe. But I did spend 5 years in my teens in Germany, which was at the time West Germany. And then I met Jesus in high school, which, you know, I'm just listing big events in my life.
Right.
And then after that, I spent 8 years in England because I didn't quite fit in or didn't quite know how to navigate life in Japan anymore after having spent some time in Germany.
Well, you weren't in England just to get away from Japan, though.
No, I guess that's not the main reason. I did meet some Christians that I wanted to just do life with in England. So
hardcore Christian living in community.
Christian community.
Everything for Jesus.
That's right. So that was in my 20s for 8 years. And then I came back. I was planning on going back to England after spending some time in Japan. But then, life had a different plan.
Yeah. Well, God had a different plan, right?
God,
because you met me about that time, right?
Which that wasn't really why I stayed in Japan. Meeting Jeremy happened around that same time I decided to stay. But I decided to stay in Japan, and then we lived in Osaka, both of us.
Right.
And got married.
There's so much you're just condensing, and you know, I'm sure we'll have other times to share some of those things. But you really felt the Lord ask you to stay in Japan, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, which I guess probably I had resisted for many, many years. And I would say it's still not really the easiest, but then I don't know if it's easier for other people. I can't say.
There's a lot to unpack there, but just because I know you and how much you've shortened. But when I was thinking about when people say, are you really all Japanese, 100% Japanese? And I think there's a lot in your thinking that is very not Japanese too. That's they're very much a part of who you are. That time in Germany, you weren't like in a Japanese community in Germany. I mean, you were in the German countryside.
I was 10 years old.
German school.
Like literally thrown into the deepest end, so to speak.
Right.
Yeah, and I guess there's been a lot of research about kids or people like me since then. At the time, there wasn't really anything that I could read that would have helped me. But yeah, when you spend some time outside of your original culture, even like coming back, you're just not the same anymore.
Right.
And it's not that you fit it in better in one than the other. You just, there's this kind of interesting, unique, I would say, feeling of just been in between constantly.
Right.
And I think I have really come to, find peace in that.
Yeah, in that in-between space. Yeah. And
that can be a strength, actually.
In some ways, like you can really relate to the whole, what they call like third culture kid dynamics, right?
Well, that's me.
Like,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
Because you're foreign. Yeah, actually it is. I mean, your parents weren't missionaries, but they foreign parents.
Foreign parents.
Living
in Germany.
But then when I first met you, I thought too, like, oh, is she half? Because you were so British. Like, I mean, just really that and you just come back. So all your clothes and fashion and hair and everything was not Tokyo, much more UK.
Right. Yeah. Although you've never been to the UK.
No, I still haven't. Yeah, I've always wanted to go to Europe.
Like your image of UK. Right.
And you had never been to America either. So it's, our meeting was, that's a different story, but, you didn't come to America until after we were engaged. Right. Yeah. I bet you never thought you'd marry an American.
Interestingly, I had a friend, when I was working in England, and for some reason she said to me that she could imagine like me being married to an American.
Oh, really?
And at the time I said, no.
Oh, I'm very curious which friend that would have been, but maybe you can tell me that.
Yeah. Well, she was a coworker. I'm not in touch with her
anymore.
I
see. That's interesting. Well, I wonder what she didn't explain why.
But it was in some context I don't remember.
Well, I mean, that's all of those experiences too. They've really shaped your walk with the Lord, haven't they?
Right. Yeah. So I think often people sort of like, cut off life before Jesus and life after Jesus, which obviously it's very, very different. It's a blessing, but I do really believe that just God knows all of it.
Right.
Like He knows us even before we were conceived. He formed us in our mother's womb. So just things that we experience, good and bad, like, whether it was before we knew Jesus or not, I think He can like really take all of it and turn them into something beautiful.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not that, I mean, we all have painful and sad experiences that we wish that we wouldn't have gone through. So I'm not saying that those were good, but still I do believe that God can like really use those things.
Right. So there was definitely like pain and things because of being in foreign environments and
things that like happened to me that wasn't really my doing, and then things that mistakes that I have made, which I'm sure we all can say what that's like. So to continue, I got married to you, and then we pastored in Sendai for some years, 9 years actually, and then we moved to Tochigi for 7 years. We lived there and then came to Tokyo 4 years ago.
4 years ago, yeah. Now you've been, one thing I think is really important too in talking about how that has shaped your walk with the Lord. You've been in a lot of different Christian contexts too, right?
That's true, yeah.
Your first, when you were in Germany, there was a Christian family, right? Which, do you know what background they would have been?
No, actually, I had my first German teacher who helped me and my sister a lot. He was a Christian. I think he lived at the church as well, like this little Lutheran church. And I don't really remember hearing about Jesus from him. I'm sure he did. I just don't remember. But I do remember how kind and warm and generous he was. Yeah.
And he probably never knew how your life turned out. Yeah, that would be
really interesting if I could meet him again.
And so then your friend told you about Jesus, and then your first Japanese church experience was a really traditional evangelical,
conservative.
Yeah. And then you went to Christian university at one point, right? But then after that you came you were filled with the Holy Spirit, right? Mm-hmm. Koshien mission, right?
Yeah. Well, no. No.
No? Don't mention on any of that?
Well, it just gets too long.
Right.
I think we will have another chance. Yes, I was involved in Koshien mission, but I think most of you listeners won't really know what that was outside of Japan. But yeah, I was filled with the Spirit, and so that's really a big reason why I didn't stay with my study at university. And then after that, I went to England, which like when I met, I was just visiting a friend over summer 1 year, and I met this church that like had lots of young people, just really passionate lovers of Jesus. And when I saw that, I thought, this is what I want.
Yeah. Well, okay. So all of those things, like, yeah, and I know that we weren't going to go into deep detail about each of those things, but we wanted to talk today about like all of that you've experienced. So what is really important in life to you?
Yeah. So because I've had so many like different, seasons of life, like obvious, changes and transitions. For a long time, I felt like my life was just kind of fragmented and couldn't really make sense of it. But now I have, and I am beginning to, and I still continue to. And I do really feel that life really is like, this may sound really cliche, but our life really is a work of art. And we each are a work of art. And, we are, like we say all the time, right? For our ministry as well, that, there's a story that we are co-writing with God, which is our life. And then there's the bigger story that God is writing in history in all over the world with all the believers and, people. But like ultimately that God is the editor and he is the publisher, and like we see it from his perspective. And so I really believe that each of us, like each of the life that we live, is worth telling and sharing with others. Because like, each of us experience life differently. And even, being put in the same environment and given the same outward experiences, we experience them. And we, like, our feelings and our perception and thoughts, we experience them differently. And so, like, how we experience it, I think is worth sharing and telling and expressing, because that is just really the expression of God that we get to show the world.
Yeah, that's so good. I actually was listening to something recently, and they were saying something similar about just the idea of story, but they were saying, they were saying something about you're the main character of the story, but actually we're invited into a much bigger story than just
that's the beauty of it,
our own life, isn't it? Yeah, God actually invites us onto a much bigger stage. Yeah. So when one aspect of that, when we're talking about the story, the story of your life and how it's beautiful and we're sharing, it's not that you're the main character and that everything in your walk with God revolves around you. And that's actually like an exciting
I think so,
place to be, isn't it?
Yeah. Another thing I would say, that I believe about life is it's a little similar to what I just said already. But we have different phases, different seasons, and mistakes, things that we wish weren't the way they were. But it's that I really believe that we all get second chances and third and fourth and like really countless chances in this life. And we get to always like, well, it's not us, but God can really rewrite, the narrative. And so I think we can just sort of like, in a way sit back and be the learner and stay curious how God can like develop it and how we can like, take risks and take second chance and sort of, try a different way.
Is there a specific example of that you'd like to share, where you've just experienced God really rewriting?
Actually, I am writing down my life story. It's really a gift to myself. I'm not really thinking publish it or anything. But in that, I am also writing how, like, there was a time in my 20s when I really just thought, I'm sure a lot of people can relate to this, but I really thought my life was just over.
It's after you met Jesus.
After I met Jesus, I just messed it up too much for it to be redeemed, which, I didn't realize that it was already redeemed, but, and I just, until then, I was just so, like, passionate and so, like, full of zeal, and I get to love Jesus, and this is my life. But then there was a point when I thought, oh, it's really not me, and I just gonna have to just let go of all this striving and holding on to him in my own strength, and just kind of let it be, let myself fall. And only then did I realize that God was big enough to catch me. And so that was such a relief. And to really know that we can't ever mess up too much, or go too far away, that God can't catch us or find us.
Well, really what I hear you expressing, I mean, that's a real like conviction of faith and somebody who's experienced God's grace, and the faith that his ability is bigger. Mm-hmm. His ability is more to fix our lives than our ability to mess it up.
Yeah. So I want to say, if anybody is listening to this and you feel like it's it's done, or it's I'm done, this is too bad, or I'm hopeless, whatever we think, it is not that way, because God is big enough.
Yeah, that's so good.
Yeah.
So I've heard you say a few things. So you talked about that, how life is really a work of art, and you talked about
that we're
staying a learner.
Yeah, learning, and
staying curious, like that. And I hear you use those kind of words a lot.
Yeah, I guess because I've experienced some, like, really dark seasons in my life, I also can say that this is something I say to myself all the time, but don't forget to play. Because there's not really that many things that we need to take so seriously in life. And life is really to be enjoyed. It's a window for seeing God's beauty. And so, that playfulness is really, really key to staying creative and to staying God, to seeing God's beauty in everything that surrounds us. And then, like, a few other things, I want to be generous. I think, like, some people might say that, like, giving away your time, your life, your energy to things that you can't really measure is naive, and it's pointless. But again, I want to stay playful enough to say, no, it's fine. I can be generous, and I can just pour out. Yeah. So, when I say generous, it's really about people. We talk about this all the time, but we want to prioritize people and relationships over, getting some projects done or achieving something. So we want to stay foolish and playful enough to be able to live that way.
It reminds me, I heard this surgeon give a message. It was actually, if you want the whole a little more context, it was a surgeon that operated on my dad. My dad invited him to speak at the church after he recovered, and that was a whole story. But
have I heard that before?
I don't know. But this surgeon, I still remember his message, because it was just centered on this one phrase. Because he says he's with people and when they're facing death,
right? And
he said, I never have heard anybody say, I wish I would have worked harder. I wish I would have been more serious. But he has heard this repeatedly, and the phrase was, I wish I would have loved more. And so I hear you kind of saying something a little similar. They're like not looking back at your life. There's no moments where you think I should have been more serious.
Yeah, I think especially in Japan, there's just so many things, especially even for kids in schools, that they're told, well, it has to be this way. You can't mess this up or whatever. And I just think, yeah, it's so fair enough. Like when you're growing up, you do need to learn discipline.
Yeah.
But I just think that there are so many opportunities and there are so many different ways of doing things that if you think one didn't work, you can try another.
There is a lot of pressure on kids not to make a mistake. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. That is, and that's sad. We've had a lot of conversations with our kids that it's you have to find the really good things. You have to be willing to explore and to try and to be okay to make mistakes. We say this to our children as well, which, I mean, for adults, it's hard to make a mistake. I mean, that never goes away either, does it? And actually, sometimes as we get older, I don't know if I've said this to you, but I've known for myself, I have to come back to that place of humility because it's really humbling to try something new because I'm used to, we get used to our proficiency, right? We're good at certain things. We're comfortable, and probably men have this especially, we're good at our job or our hobby or whatever. And then when you go do something new or go into a new environment, you have to be okay with feeling stupid. That
really is though. Another thing that I sometimes tell people, like, when people are telling their life story and kind of feeling, discouraged or whatever. And then I say, remember when I went to work at the clothes store?
Yes.
And I was in my mid-40s and kind of in between time. And I thought I'd just, do it for fun. And it was so hard. It was so hard because it was
not fun, huh?
Things that I hadn't ever done before. And I did, even though it was hard, I did say to myself, I remember, this is good to be a learner and to be a beginner again, because this kind of humbling experience is necessary for us.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. And I think maybe that's one reason
necessary for staying who we are. Actually.
Yeah, staying who we are, but also for growing, continuing to grow, right? And maybe that's one reason why sometimes we stagnate. Like we're not growing because we're not pressing into those new fields, new areas, new experiences, and
environments and experiences where you can't really foresee the outcome. And I do like this phrase, like live an can't say uncalculated. Is that the right word?
Uncalculated. Yeah.
Life.
Yeah. Wow. That's very un-Japanese.
I guess so. So that's why I get asked all the time. Maybe
if somebody's listening to this and they maybe that's kind of sparking some ideas, but they have not been living in that way. Like what are some practical ways that people could come back to curiosity and playfulness? And
that's a good question. I would say, like, going back to my first point though, first model, maybe I would say that life is a work of art, and really see things from his perspective, because then everything changes. Like when we are looking at our life and just comparing with other people and all the different narratives that we are told that things should be, it's hopeless. It's discouraging, depressing. But when you see it from God's perspective, there is never a lack of hope. There's always some way that you can find.
It's interesting that we're talking like this, and you mentioned that because in my devotional reading today, it was where Jesus appeared to the disciples after he rose from the dead, and he restores Peter.
Right.
You know,
oh, yeah,
and-
that's such a personal one for me.
And so, you know, Peter has denied Jesus. And I mean, he didn't just deny him halfway. Like, he cursed and everything in front of everybody while Jesus is on trial. And I was just thinking this morning, like, that Jesus didn't lead Peter in a prayer of repentance. Now, I know, like, Peter went, it says he went and he wept bitterly, and I'm sure he prayed and repented. So I'm not saying
He didn't repent.
He didn't repent. But what Jesus did was, like, he let him speak, or he let him declare like who he really was.
Right.
And I thought one thing that really stuck out to me, and I wouldn't make any big theological claims about this, but Jesus, his first question, he said, he said, Peter, do you love me more than these?
Right.
And I was like, oh, is he comparing disciples? You know, like I think that was Peter's, maybe like Peter's passion or Peter's identity. Like, he was just like, of all the disciples, he's the one who's,
he was the most
over the top,
zealous.
like full on zealous. And
that was me too.
But Jesus let him say that. Like, he didn't shoot him down and said, oh, Peter, don't think you're so great compared to anybody else.
Well, don't compare.
But he's like, do you love me? And Peter's like, yes, I do. I do.
Yeah,
and so he's like leading him in a declaration, really, of who he actually is to the Lord.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's just really beautiful.
Yeah. That's our Jesus. That's how he is. And that's how he restores us. So yeah, there's just so much hope.
Yeah. Any final thoughts, words of wisdom to share on this episode, Kumi?
I think being generous and being available for people is really so worthwhile. And I think it gets us out of this, calculating outcomes and like measuring success sort of mindset. Because like with people, you're spending time with people, and you're spending money on people, you're pouring out love for people. You don't really know how much it's gonna cost, right? And you mentioned Peter, but like Jesus said, feed my sheep.
Yeah.
Right. And so that was the response of like, Peter being restored, and then like loving Jesus. And how is he going to show that? In feeding the sheep. And so I think that's how much people, like each one of us, is in God's heart and mind, and how important it is to him. And so it's a challenge sometimes or often, but I think it's a privilege to be challenged that way, to love more, to be more generous with love and time and resources.
That's beautiful. Yeah, there's something about where when you were saying something about that, I just had this image of where you're taking time with people, and it's like you have that margin. It's like you give that margin that maybe you don't actually have, but you slow down.
Yeah.
And you look at them.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's not like I have a half hour
right.
to give you and that's it, but it's like, okay, it bleeds into 45 or 50 minutes.
Yeah.
And there's like that non-rushedness, right?
But when you make that decision, you actually enter into that grace of like living differently to how the world is.
Really a different pace, isn't it? Well, that's beautiful. And I think that's definitely a snapshot of who you are and how you live. But we'll cover those things more, I'm sure, in future
maybe
episodes.
next episode we'll hear about Jeremy's story.
Oh, yeah. I can't wait.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us. If you're in the Tokyo area, we'd love to hear from you. And we have more and more events that we're doing that we're inviting people in. We also have a lot in Japanese content that we are creating that we'll be putting out on YouTube. And if you want to find out more, you can go to wildbranch.jp. And there's a form on there. And we would love to hear any questions or any comments that you have. We're always excited to hear from you.
You can also find us on Instagram, wildbranch.jp.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, and we have all our event announcements on there,
Yes.
right? Yes. But until then, we will talk to you again soon. Have a great rest of your week.
You have been listening to Wild Branch Radio. Wild Branch is a new missional community based in Tokyo, making space for God's heart. You can find out more about us on our website, wildbranch.jp. If you've enjoyed listening to this episode, please follow us on here and on Instagram and subscribe to our newsletter.